Confused at the Buffet by Mike Barnard. Story, Hospital Arcade by Mike Barnard. Narrated by Mike Barnard. Hospital Arcade. 7 years ago to the day, Dr. Marcus Dougal retired. He was only 49 years old, but when you're a doctor, you can do stuff like that. The world was a big place. He wanted to see it all. He wanted to shake the dust off this crummy small town and go to Paris and stuff. Before he could trot the globe, he was going to go out with a bang by throwing the biggest party the hospital's ever seen. Once the top administrators denied his party budget, he tamped it down significantly. Since it had to be funded out of pocket, he cheaped out and got some Hungry Howie's pizza and cold ones from the discount liquor store down the street. Doctors get half off booze, in case you didn't know. For entertainment, he really wanted strippers and flame-throwing elephants, but instead he had to settle for his iPad playing 80s rock through a Beats pill. That was good enough. It would have pleased most, but he still wanted to add a little spice. Since he was feeling a bit frivolous, he brought in a Pac-Man arcade cabinet from his private collection. We're talking full-size retro remake of the classic game. Immediately, it was a bad idea. He forgot how much these things weigh. With much wiggling, he got it in the back of his Porsche and later into the ER waiting room. They locked the doors. Only hospital staff and invited guests were allowed. The joint was jumping. The patients were suffering. If they had a real emergency, there was a little self-serve station set up in an ambulance in the back. You know how those morons are, always complaining about nothing. Wow, my foot was chopped off by my daughter who's high on shrooms. Walk it off, pansy. The doctors and nurses had a blast. And of course, the Pac-Man machine got much play. Everyone loves the 80s. Dr. Krog got the highest score, and everyone cheered as if that meant anything. For the record, it doesn't. 3 a.m. and the party was nearly done. The pizza was gone, the drinks were drunk, and so was the staff, many of whom had to report for work in 6 hours or less. The man of the hour, Dr. Dougal, did a victory lap, shaking everyone's hand, kissing a few hotties, and bowing out with grace. However, he did leave the arcade cabinet behind. He had a heck of a time getting it in his car to begin with. Now that he's tired and less than sober, forget about it. He kept saying he'd come back for it someday, but he never did. At first the staff was a bit embarrassed to have this big noisy thing hanging around. They threw a bedsheet over it, but that just drew more attention. All it took was some snooping kid to take a peek and discover the game. He paid the fourth of a buck necessary to boot up the machine. Waka 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 waka! Sounds of the Man of Pac infested the peace and serenity of the sterile hospital. Mix that with the 25 Days of Christmas that was playing on the TV, it was a raucous place. The nurses tried to keep order, while the orderlies tried to nurse the situation. In the end, fun won out. Children lined up to play the ancient game. Most of them had no idea who this round yellow yapper was, but they sure did love to flick a joystick. It certainly was disturbing, and the old-timers made mention of it every time they came in. You know, the ER is like the club for the elderly. They love to sit around and complain while sipping on some day-old coffee. Sometimes they would forget why they came in. Just the act of being there cured them sometimes. Loneliness really is a great threat to humanity, so please don't forget to invite your grandparents out to parties. Pretty soon there was a war between Gen Z and the Biden generation. The teens were there just for the game, and maybe to harass the gift shop lady into giving them free candy. The old folks just wanted to be sick and broken. They were in each other's way. It was a conflict of interest that led to shouting, screaming, shoving, protests, and riots. Those immature octogenarians wouldn't let it go. The kids would usually buckle under pressure, but this time they were riled up when the coolest kid in school, Miles McHammer, got put in a headlock by a gray-haired old pro wrestler / retired governor. Poor Miles was so discombobulated that he nearly needed 22 stitches. If only there was a facility nearby that could treat him. Unfortunately, the McHammer family were penniless fools that spent money on sneakers and none on insurance. The kid died in the alley. Madness, utter madness erupted after that. No one was immune to the strife. The arcade game became a symbol of resistance. Before, the hospital was too lazy or ill-equipped to move it. Now, they wouldn't dare touch it in fear of a severe backlash. On the bright side, they made a crap ton in quarters. This got the staff thinking, what if they added a few more games just to pacify the chaos? So, with the approval of the hospital board, they added Donkey Kong and Dig Dug. Those rascals actually got a new appreciation out of the old classics. In turn, the ancient patients had a nostalgia trip and their hearts melted. Soon, all was forgiven. The generations were playing together nicely. Pinball was added, then air hockey. Folks really enjoyed themselves, even the truly sick and broken. A funny thing happened after that. Anyone who checked in for an ailment found healing within the entertaining glow of the video games. Doctors were on standby just in case, but more times than not, they just sat around, twiddling their thumbs. Eventually, the ill was replaced by the chill. The reception desk was removed in favor of a snack bar. So many games were added, they had to knock down a wall, then another. The medical professionals stopped giving shots and started serving them. Hospital Arcade became the hippest hot spot in town, all thanks to Dr. Dougal and his Pac-Man machine. Waka waka! The end.